Hey everybody, welcome back to a crochet vlog. This is kind of a special episode that I mentioned briefly in my Lost in Time crochet vlogs. I think the last episode, which, the final bit of that book, and also in the community post for this week. But yeah. This is my other book, A Witch's Debt, from the Champion of the Void series. Actually, now I'm still slightly questioning, should I have? Well, no, actually, no, yeah, no. There's a lot of things with this book series, so when it comes to what to call the series, there's a possibility that I might do book series from other people's point of view, and what ties it all together is they are a champion of the void, which is why I named it that. But specifically, this series, the main character is Valerie Winters, and she is a champion of the void, yes. But yeah, I don't know. I really love this particular chapter, chapter 21 of 26 chapters, with an epilogue, which is ironic because that's the same amount that Lost in Time ended up being. But it's double. It's double the amount of pages, but I also use spaces in this one. So I finished this book in 2018. I started it, I think, in 2017. So it took me about a year to write, maybe a little over that. But yeah, this is the series that I'm actively working on. If you follow me on Twitter, you might see me recently have posted some things. That is this universe, these sets of characters. I am actually actively right now in the other tab working on the prequel to this book right here. And what's kind of funny is that these characters, this world, they hit closer for me than Eli does in Lost in Time. I think it's just because they're a little bit more where I am with my own personal thoughts and things and crap in my life. Valerie's just kind of my comfort character, and yeah. So, my friend affectionately calls this series the hurt comfort of my writing. Where it's basically everything is going to hell in a handbasket, and everything sucks. Whether the character's having emotional damage, Valerie 24/7, or she's injured within an inch of her life, Valerie 24/7. And despite it all, despite everything just going to hell in a handbasket, torn to shreds, everything else, there's comfort in it. Whether that's from a character or from a kind gesture or something. It's those lyrics, oh, I love it and I hate it at the same time. That is hurt comfort, at least to her and I's, hers and mine description of it, definition, sorry. And this is kind of a chapter that has kind of lived in my head a little bit. I actually have already reread this book just for me to have fun. Things are going to be different in the rewrite. As soon as I get done with the prequel, I'm going to be going into the rewrite for this. But what's funny is that I enjoy this as is. I enjoy this story as is, even though one beta reader was like not 100% into it, like Valerie's downtrodden, da 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 da. Well, there's a lot of reasons for why. She being the character, Valerie, doesn't really want to go into it. Because Valerie in this series, there's so much going on. Things that Valerie herself does not know. Things that Valerie knows, but Valerie keeps from the reader. Keeps from the people she's trying to help. The people she cares about. And then there's things that the people she's trying to help and that she cares about, they don't necessarily share information with her either. So there's a lot of nuance with this. With Eli and Lost in Time, it's a lot easier because she doesn't hide anything from the reader. She doesn't actively try to avoid things. If I could describe Valerie, it is flight or fight response on constantly. Very anxious. Very, very anxious. And just honestly trying to keep her head above the water. You could probably see why I'm like, this is my character. But yeah, so I reread this chapter recently, and I ended up going all the way back up to the very beginning, and I reread the entire book, and I was like, well, shit. And yet, why am I here wanting to read this again and kind of share? I mean, why don't I just read it for myself again and not share and talk about it? Well, doing the Lost in Time thing for the crochet vlogs, I really enjoyed going back and talking about it. And I kind of want to do the same thing for this series, especially since there's so much more planned because it's a more recent series and I'm much more in tune with the characters, and the rewrite is not as huge as with Lost in Time, and there's more lore and everything else. Like, I really tried really hard with my world building with this series. And my character development and everything else, and in my opinion, I did a much better job. And I tried different things, and I don't know, it worked better, and I'm actually going to take a lot of the stuff I learned from doing this and writing this, and I'm going to apply it in Lost in Time. So, if people don't like it, well, I mean, who knows if I'm going to get published? Who knows if I'm going to be brave enough to even try? But yeah, what to say? It's weird because I'm starting at chapter 21. You would think start at the beginning. But I want to start here because this chapter shows a character development moment in the relationship between Valerie, the main character, and her boss, the being that she is bound to. One of the quote-unquote secrets that is shared with the reader to a certain extent, but is not shared with the rest of the characters. Zol. Zol is a deity of the void, and the void is essentially a force of power, we could say. A sentient being that does not have a body, but it has a will. It just doesn't usually talk. It tends to speak and act through the deities of the void and the champions of the void. Valerie, the main character, is a champion of the void and a champion of Zol. Zol is a deity of the void. Hopefully that makes some modicum of sense. Every deity, there are nine deities of the void. Every deity has to have one champion, and Valerie is Zol's champion. What Zol's purpose is is she's the information gatherer. She's the eyes in the darkness, the spy behind the scene, pulling the strings. She's the quiet assassinations in the night. She is the purveyor of mysteries, mistress of intrigue, a colossal pain in the ass. Her personality is that whiny, bratty 5-year-old in Walmart that wants things, and someone told her no, so she's going to scream and scream and scream and scream and scream, and mom won't do anything about it, so everyone else just has to deal with the screaming until someone gives her what she wants, or tries to discipline her. But give that power, give that personality to a god. Doesn't work out very well, does it? No. And the only other thing really to note about Zol here, for the purposes of this, is her fatal flaw, is that she experiences human emotion exceptionally strongly. Happiness, amp it up to 1,000. Anger, amp it up to 1,000. She flips through mood swings like the fashionistas, like on the runways, go through clothing. And the problem with that is that she is not human. She's not mortal. She's never been. She didn't have parents. She just was created. And she's never once been shown, no one's cared to try, but she doesn't know how to regulate that emotion. She doesn't know what guilt is. She feels it, but like, it's this icky feeling, but like, what is it? Guilt? Oh no, I don't know what guilt is. Oh, I'm not guilty. I'm a god, you know. And so that's all. So as for what's going on in this story, the title is A Witch's Debt, and 3 years prior to this, in the prequel, funnily enough, Valerie was in Chicago. She met two individuals, Charles Cooper and Kieran Green, and stuff happened. It was kind of a time and place, just random time and place, and they fell into an unlikely partnership. Neither side really trusted the other. It was just 36 hours. They were just going to work together. And they ended up doing that. But, the men, Green and Cooper, they ended up being attacked, and Cooper ended up getting shot, almost dying. And Valerie ended up being able to save him. So, at least in the rewrite, the debt is that he died, technically, but she was able to save him by borrowing power from another god that she was not supposed to tap into. Mother Nature. And Mother Nature's a bitch. There's some drama there. But yeah. So in this, it was basically like she owed the pack because they help her out at the beginning. But I upped the ante in the rewrite. Either way, it is still, the debt is the big thing hanging over Valerie's head. So, but we'll go with the rewrite thing there. And the other thing, and this is something that Cooper and Green do not know. She's the reason they got attacked. They won't get confirmation for a long time on that one. Not until like near the end of the book when I get to doing the rewrite. But Mother Nature is fully aware of this. And that's a no-no. That's a huge no-no in the whole politics of gods. Valerie is of the void. She is not of nature. You weren't supposed to do that. Well, she did. And now she's reaping the consequences. The consequences are that, hey, there is a murder going on at a pack, and you're going to go help them. Oh, you think you have a choice. That's very, very funny. You took power without asking, and you killed someone you were not supposed to. Or you caused that death. And lo and behold, it's, green. Green is the alpha of that pack. That's lovely. Lovely. And to boot, Valerie is not just a champion, which not many people know that's the hush-hush, but Valerie is a caster, like a spellcaster, of course. There's a witch's debt, because to shifters, what the hell's a caster? No, it's just witches. Like, everybody, if you do magic, it's either witch or fae. Which one are you? And there's different, lore and stuff like that. But yeah, when Mother Nature enacts that debt, it's all she's going to tell Valerie is, it's one of your kind causing the problems, one of your kind creating the murder, so that is what you have to fix. Now that creates a conundrum, because Valerie's like, well, which one is it? Is it a caster, or is it a champion? Does she mean someone of the void? Because Valerie's both, and Mother Nature never says. She just makes Valerie go and figure it out for herself. So that is what is essentially the plot, is Valerie going and trying to get the pack to share information, trying to convince them that she's not there to be a problem, but they don't really believe her because they're still suspicious as all hell, and shifters really don't like witches. Really, really, really bad juju there. And despite them wanting her to leave, she can't. She's got that debt, and so she just, for a long time, goes and figures it out for herself until they have to come together in the end. Yeah, that's essentially it in a nutshell. In the context of the chapter I am about to read, I promise, this is Valerie trying to figure out what exactly is causing the deaths, the murders. She's figured out it's some sort of infection, a magical infection, and she is trying to basically magic it out of what the hell it is, but she's missing pertinent information that would help her make sense of what her abilities are telling her. So Valerie is what is known as a weaver. They are beings, a weaver is someone who can access the natural magic of the world. Essentially, there are two classifications. There's the environmentalists, and then there's the quote-unquote internalists. If you are internal, then you can see the waves, the vibrations, inflections of the body. What's that? Your kidneys are malfunctioning and dying? Here, I can fix that for you. I want your right lung to collapse? I can do that. Your arm has been cut off. I can make it regrow. These are just some things that they can do, and the more powerful you are, the more you can do. It's all about like fine-tuning those muscles, basically. You can either be a wonderful healer or a wonderful killer, mass destruction, staring at a battlefield and making everyone's heart stop at great cost, but it can happen. That was Valerie's father. Now, Valerie is of the environmentalist. She can't do shit in the body. Can't do shit. She can read things on the skin, not in the skin. She can understand emotions and things because it's all over the skin. But in reality, what she does is she sees the runes on the wind, the weaves, the smells, the auras, the colors. It's a language all of its own. Little bent strands, little swirly runes. It could just be a feeling. It could be a whispering. And it's something only weavers can see. And she can manipulate it to an extent, really, and where that kind of comes down to is elaborate spells and things like that. It's not as simple as healing, which of course is not simple at all. Sometimes she gets the opportunity to ask the universe for things. Like in the first draft, she asked for butterflies to come by, and she just asks. She doesn't make it. You can't make something like that, or at least she can't. But butterflies do come by after a little bit because she asked nicely and the universe was nice. So it's more of seeing the forces around and then having the know-how and knowledge to create something with the runes and whatnot to do something. That's what an environmentalist does. They're more of observers, if you will, which is kind of... It makes her a good champion for Zol, although Zol would rather eat her own foot than admit that. So that is what she is doing here. The only other thing Valerie can do is she is also psychokinetic, so she can move objects with her mind. She can manipulate the things around her with her mind. She can't read minds, though. And she cannot, communicate via minds. It's just moving things and lifting and so on and so forth. So, the context for this is she is trying to figure out that magic, but she doesn't have the knowledge. And she's also kind of down in the dumps because she doubts herself very easily for many reasons, and she's under a massive time limit. And I could keep talking about this all day. I think I'm just going to start reading it now. And probably talk a little bit more at the end. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So, A Witch's Debt, first draft, chapter 21, Knowledge. The point of view is Valerie. And the reason I say that is because up here was Kieran. Yeah. Time has no meaning when I am searching. I often forget to eat, sleep, or even that I exist. My father used to say that was one of the costs of weaving. My grandfather simply said it was part of the process. To search, Dad would say. You must give all of yourself to the magic. Believe in the force of it. Surround yourself with it. Who has time for mortal needs when they have everything they need right in front of them? I hadn't understood at the time, and wouldn't until many years later. Now I gave myself willingly to the thralls of power, reaching for the force around me. It was not for me to control, nor for it to enslave me, no. For a weaver to truly weave, the force and the caster must become one. Only then does the search cease, and the harmony begins. It can take days, weeks, or even months to find that harmony. Trouble was, I only had a few hours, and I was struggling. Everywhere I turned, there it was, but it wasn't. It surrounded me, but did not give what I so desperately sought. Was I not strong enough? Did it too sense my fear, the near crippling doubt that plagued me, try as I might to ignore it? I told myself that perhaps it was the distractions. The electricity made the force sound odd. The plastic and screws made it taste foul. Eventually I had to leave Pac Lands, get away from him and all the distractions. No distractions out in nature, I reasoned. Yet here I was, and I couldn't do it. The intense pressure of the ever-looming clock haunted me. How much time is left? I didn't even know. I didn't dare ask my companions, situated in tents just down the trail. They would know, but then so would I. And I had no idea what I would do then. Would the pressure overcome me? I couldn't let that happen. I was that boy's only hope. The pack couldn't trace his magic, no. It would have to be me. Except I was failing. But my father had always said, you cannot fail if you don't try, and you cannot truly succeed until you fail. So with that, I kept going. Day gave way to night, and night to day once more. Still, I never moved from the large rock overhang, my feet dangling over the ledge as my right hand moved through the air. The air was chilled this high up, but the wind kept bringing more symbols and more strands as the force hovered around me. The annoying cast finally had a use. It was the only thing those dang bent strands would stick to, the ones I had held onto this entire time. When I woke up in the clinic after my near-death experience with Zol, the fiends had been clinging to them for me, waiting patiently until I woke from my healing sleep to hand them over. It seems the strands enjoyed pain, poking and prodding at my injuries with devious glee. Not that that told me anything. It was so frustrating, being so close, yet so far from the answers I needed. The key to it all was right in front of me, clinging to this miserable cast, yet I did not have the necessary knowledge to use it. So frustrating. I tried to see what essence it was derived from, but even that was foreign to me. As far as I was aware, there were just 3 essences: light, void, and nature. Those were the 3 essences that all species obtained their magic from, unless Father Time was the patron for a species I had never heard of. But these odd strands just didn't feel like time. They were cold and sinister. Very similar to the void, but I knew what that felt like. I should, since I was bonded to it. Mischief and a cool breeze. That's what the void was, or at the most it was filtered chaos, but it was never sinister. That was such an odd word to describe a strand with, but it was the only thing that fit. Sinister. I was so absorbed in the search, I nearly missed her presence over my shoulder, peering at the air in front of me. No time. You have to focus. Remember, Valerie, no distractions. There can be no harmony if there are distractions. Hydration break. She watched me for a while, staying impossibly hunched over for a long time. Then, silence. Nope, I don't get it. Even after 6 years of seeing through your eyes, that language, or whatever you call it, still eludes me. She stood up straight and huffed. Give me Egyptian hieroglyphs or Russian any day of the week. You can have that child scribble. It couldn't be nature, no. Nature's essence was chaotic in of itself, depending on the day and what was going on. It could be the smell of cotton and the sound of a babbling brook. Other days it might be overturned earth and the unnerving feeling of a storm on the horizon. But in the sense of good and evil, nature was strictly neutral. Nature could be mean, but it was never outright evil or sinister. It's not nature. So what is it then? The words left my mouth in a hurried growl, but it didn't make me feel better like I hoped. Oh, are you talking to me? Zol walked off the cliff, circling me like a predator might prey. Valerie, she sang my name, stopped midair, and waited for a response that never came. Valerie. You know I don't like to be kept waiting. When she snapped her fingers and flicked my nose, I didn't react. The answer was so close. If only what I was searching for would coalesce for me. Focus, Valerie. Patience is a virtue. You must keep trying. She finally sighed and walked back to the neglected pile of supplies Cooper had brought for me. I told him I didn't need the tent, but he put it up anyway, so I simply moved far enough away that the man-made stink wouldn't distract me. Aggie had provided plenty of food as well, which Zol was poking through now. Frog-eyed... 5.2. Frog-eyed salad. How strange. Lovely name, though. Roast, mashed potatoes, steamed veggies. Yuck! Ah, bread pudding! I barely registered the feeling of her eyes staring at the back of my head. Muttering to myself, I sent the runes away and started fresh. I was missing something. Valerie, dear, do you mind if I... You know what? I'm just going to try it anyway. She quietly ate, making happy food noises. Her eyes never left my cross-legged figure, but she was content to observe me. Focus, Valerie. She's just here to distract you. Is it working? She said brightly with a mouthful of food. She sighed when I didn't respond. Well, darn. You know this pudding stuff is amazing. You should really try some. Which dog? That's a chew monster. There's a chew monster under the desk collecting attention. It wasn't the light. It may have been 6 years since I was bonded with it, but the light was simply a warm, comforting ray of magic. I would never forget it. I scowled fiercely at the bent strands clinging to my dumb cast. This wasn't working. But what else can I do? I'm basically out of tools on my tool belt. You have a very tiny tool belt, dear. You shouldn't be surprised. Irritation flared at her incessant needling, and just like that, the force started to leave. Fine, go then. Freaking useless. Anger simmered, covering this bitter, sweet taste of defeat. I'm not strong enough or good enough. I am not enough. I'm sorry, Dad. Are you going to join the land of us normal people now, Valerie? Zol paused and thought about that for a moment. Oh, wait. I'm not normal. Oh, whatever. Hey, Earth to Valerie. I'm bored. Entertain me. God, I love and hate Zol at the same time. Frustration entered the mishmash of emotions in my mind as I acutely examined the bent strands. Why are they so mysterious? Just spill your secrets already. I do believe my impatience is rubbed off on you, I'm afraid. Sorry. She didn't sound sorry. What are you doing here, Zol? Defeat made my voice low and bitter. I didn't have the energy to deal with her right now. Zol irritated me so much, and she knew it. Just to prove my point, she noisily chewed with her mouth open. You are so obnoxious. Whatever do you mean? I'm just here to watch your emotional breakdown. It's quite entertaining. Of course, she's just here to enjoy my suffering. What else did I expect? Glad to hear one of us is having a good time. Zol stopped eating, using the plastic fork to pick something out of her teeth. Want to talk about it? Such an innocent tone. If I were naive, I might actually think she cared. Oh, please. We both know you aren't here to help. Nope. I'm here to mock. Her cheerful tone was getting on my last battered nerve. Then just go away, because I am really not in the mood to deal with you, so please just go. I all but slapped myself in frustration, angrily rubbing my eyes with my good hand. I am not enough. For once, just let me wallow in misery by myself. Zol sniffed, her eyes darkening. She hates when people tell her to go away, yet here I was doing just that. You know I could kill you for that. Now she was grumpy. Go ahead. I don't care. I really didn't. My stomach tightened into awful knots at the thought of Garrett writhing in pain in that room, all alone. What will happen to him now that I've failed? You know what will happen. He'll end up like Kinley, only now everyone will be forced to watch his ugly demise. Oh, gods. His parents. Kieran. All of them. Now, what did I tell you about that pesky humanity? That guilt will eat you alive, I tell you. Chomp, chomp. She went back to the noisy eating. Oh, piss off. Now that's more like it. Zoe was so aggravating. She was nail scraping against the chalkboard, the little child asking why 100 times a day, the little boy kicking the back of your seat, and a doctor poking you with 1,000 needles, all wrapped into one. What? She threw her hands in the air and fist pumped the air, yeah. Cheering as I finally turned around and stopped my vain searching. For now. Oh, nothing. You are just finally getting your spine back. Hey, you remember that time you slapped me and I threw you off that cliff? She giggled and clapped her hands together. Shadows momentarily holding her food container, she did a happy dance. Her laughter triggered ugly emotions within me, and I began to see red. Oh, man, that was great. Wasn't that great, Valerie? You know, Zol, I can usually handle your snark. Is it annoying? Sure. But hey, I get it. When you are immortal and have the attention span of a gnat, you like to pester people. Who better than the person bound to you? They have zero choice in the matter but to deal with your relentless, incessant bullshit 24/7. Do you care about us? I was physically shaking, the rage inside spilling out. Nope, not at all. Go do this, fetch that for me. Stay still while I use you as a living mannequin or target practice. We have no say in anything that goes on in our lives, ripped from everything we ever took for granted. We are nothing but simple tools for you to use, trample on, and throw away. But you get mad when we don't work right, or when we actually refuse to do things your way. A bitter laugh overcame me for a while. Zoe remained silent, the stupid grin gone from her face, and an unknown glint in her now demonic black eyes. Well, guess what, Zoe? I am human. I'm stubborn, and I don't always like to do things your way. I have humanity, and it's not going to just be turned off. I never wanted this. I never wanted to be your champion. So yes, I defied you. Yes, it bugs the hell out of me when you poke and prod. It hurts like hell when you mention my sister. Congratulations, you know which buttons to push. Big deal. But today, just leave me alone. There is a child that is going to die because I am too damn broken to solve this mess. And here you are, bored and looking for entertainment. Well, I'm all fresh out currently, so just gloat quietly and piss off. I whirled around and kicked a rock off the cliff, then another and another. Angry tears blinded me. I crept closer and closer to the edge of the cliff and nearly lost my balance. But I didn't care. I don't care what you do to me anymore. Zoe watched me do this for a while, her expression inscrutable. I just kept going until I gave out, my knees crumbling under me, exhausted and done with it all. You've never cared what I do to you, Valerie. You've never cared about the consequences to yourself. It's always been about protecting other people for you, for better or worse. She studied me, twisting her mouth. You can't just turn that part of you off, and I, for one, don't want you to. Your magic depends on it, and quite frankly, I enjoy the misery caused by it. However, her voice grew a dangerously sharp edge. She was pissed at me, but who cares? Not me. Kindly keep your thoughts silent. I am rather unhappy with you right now. She took a deep, calming breath. Huh. Still trying to remain calm. Never thought I'd see the day. Her eyes burned with fire. You aren't helping. Sorry, not sorry. Just like you earlier. The sound of grinding teeth was heard. However, I do care about you, at least. You were the first person who ever challenged me, and to this day, despite you being broken," she used air quotes, "you still defy me after all these years. You just never got worn down enough. Imagine that. My prize has a mind of its own and has the power to defy me. You are a novelty, even if I want to snap your neck 75% of the time." She thought about it. "No, more like 85%. I don't like math." "Joy, you think I'm a novelty prize. Just stick me on a shelf." "Oh, for the love of me, shut up, or I will toss you off that cliff." Shadows surrounded us in an angry vortex, but all I felt was a spark of spite. I should not be laughing. This is not funny. Now you see how it feels. "Valerie." I rolled my eyes, but didn't try anything else. Who knows, maybe if I went along with her antics, she would go away sooner. You know what? I'm just going to talk, and you... She grabbed my free arm and led me to the safety of the rock she was previously perched on, far away from the edge of the cliff I had been tiptoeing. She pushed me down and got me situated with no help from me. I was perfectly fine where... Zol shoved her food-filled fork into my open mouth, effectively shutting me up. The half-filled food carton was placed in my lap next. "Eat and shut up." Zol glared to emphasize her point. "Now, let's go about this again, shall we? These strands of yours, you can't figure out their essence, yes? Because you are having a bad day, I feel obliged to lead you to the answer to this crucial question." "Oh, gee, how nice of you." Zol ignored that comment. "All right, there are 3 essences that witches derive their magic from." She pointed at the food carton. "Eat." She looked so much like a doting mother in that moment, I wanted to slap her. "Ugh, me? A mother? Dear me, no. That's a positively horrifying image." She shuddered in disgust. "No, I want you to eat because, as you previously said, you are a tool, and an injured one at that." She sniffed, and her eyes sparkled. "In fact, you look absolutely hideous. I should find out who did that and give them a good thrashing." She stopped, giggled, and clapped her hands together. "Oh, wait, that was me. In that case, I did a terrific job. Does it hurt?" "Ah, this is the Zol I know and hate." She gave me a nasty grin. "Give them a good thrashing, huh?" I nodded at the cliff. "No one's stopping you, you know." "You're hilarious," she sneered, then sighed. "What was I going to say again?" Tapping her chin, she remembered. "Oh, right, the 3 essences of a witch. Go." I feel like I'm back in my lessons again. Light, void, and... Wait, 3? What was a boring conversation was quickly turning into a confusing puzzle. There aren't 3 essences. I wouldn't forget something like that. Zol waited expectantly, pursing her lips. "There are 3 essences, Valerie. Come on, it's not that hard." "Zol, there is the light and void. That's all I know." She sighed heavily. "Well, you clearly didn't pay attention in school." The shadow fiends bobbed and weaved around us. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." "Really? What a nerd." That's not... Well, then fine." She was annoyed, but not with me for once. "Well, I stand corrected. You were paying attention in your lessons. There is just a massive hole in your education that must be rectified." She huffed, stretched, then turned on business mode. "All right, once upon a time, when this world was but in infancy, there were 9 deities of the light and 9 deities of the void who lived in chaotic harmony, neutral chaos, what have you. Either way, they presided over the earth and surrounding realms, working together to keep them alive and mostly well. As long as they were up and running, they succeeded in their jobs, at least until the dark came. A truly chaotic entity, its only desire is to enslave and infect everything it touches. Her voice faded, eyes lost in ancient memories. But after so long of repelling the dark, the deities of the light left, taking their most devout followers to a realm all their own. Things finally began to make sense. Those devout followers were the casters. Zol nodded, sighing. Indeed, you and the rest of the casters are descendants of those original witches and warlocks. But yes, that's the story of how you came to be. She frowned, for the first time today, at a clear loss. To this day, I still don't understand why they gave up the fight. It is our first priority, despite all of our differences and petty arguments, and they just left. She was sad for a lifelong past, then shook her head. Anyway, that's kind of your history and what you're missing. Sort of. I felt like she wasn't telling me everything, but like most things, I knew it was none of my business, and she wouldn't tell me anyway, even if I asked. So, dark is the missing essence. Dark. It made sense. Dark was cold, sinister. Just like this entire case. What is this shit? Just like this entire case seemed to be. Yeah. Yes, I can work with this. Strands and runes were already coming to me, swirling around and teasing my messy hair. My fingers reached outward, drawn by the lure of magic. Zol watched this with a slightly bored expression. So I take it you can get past your magic block? Huh? Yes, but I might have more questions after I do this. Dark felt like spider silk, clinging to everything and really difficult to get rid of. A peach fuzz feel on the mind. It also tasted like a fruit gone too ripe. Dark was certainly an odd essence, one I hoped to never encounter again after this was said and done. Zol said nothing, merely melting into the shadows, leaving me to my search. Finally, let's get this done. From my vantage point, I could see everything. The tops of the gently swaying pine trees, a kettle of vultures flying above the brisk breeze, their dark figures a total contrast from the midday sun as it rose across the sky, its brilliant rays unable to penetrate the thick shroud of shadows that had amassed around me. They bobbed and danced around me, content to be silent spies for Zol's curiosity. It didn't matter much to me, not this time. It was time. The search was waiting. Garrett was waiting. The answers were right in front of me, waiting patiently for me to decipher the code, and now that I had the missing link, it all made so much more sense. This goes with that. Those two have matching edges. We make this knot. Who in the hell? Oh, shit. Weird. Okay. Sorry. Have a person looking at this document, and I don't know who they are. I shared it with people. I know I have. I just don't know who I shared it with, because it's not saying who it is. Sorry. Trying to get back to where I was, because I thought if I clicked on it, it might tell me. Damn it. The answers were right in front of me, waiting patiently for me to decipher the code, and now that I had the missing link, it all made so much more sense. This goes with that, those two have matching edges, we make this knot. I was in my element, lost in my magic and happy to give myself to the harmony that was soon to claim me. I was a weaver. This was what I was meant to do. Time passed, yet I didn't sense it. This time my search went smoothly, the force holding me in a gentle embrace like a proud, patient parent. It was exhilarating to be joined with such an amazing power. In this harmony, I could feel every single strand in the world around me, from the blades of grass under my feet to a lone rock crushed under Cooper's rumbling vehicle, even Cooper and Alex's living strands. If I wanted to, I could weave and tune into their conversation. Oh, it was so tempting. Focus, Valerie. Find the strands of the dark. The fiends helpfully carried Zol's message to me, muffled as it was by crowds of people and a peculiar clicking noise with a jaunty background music. Right. Almost reluctantly, I pulled my attention back to the lingering strands still clinging to my cast. The strands were now decorated with a nearly translucent aura, a quiet, whispering voice in a language I didn't recognize emanating from it. Right. Time to find the source. The wind picked up, flinging strands of hair across my face, a reassuring caress from my power to steady me. With sun's rays doing their best to provide me with warmth despite the deep shadows clinging to my skin, I took several deep breaths and closed my eyes. It was time. Right, I need to find the source of these as well as what they actually do. This was going to be tricky. Weavers were powerful, but every magic user had limitations. I clearly couldn't fly. I could only read what I could see in front of me, and assuming the source was a fixed place and not just something floating in the wind, I wasn't going to be able to find that easily. Excuse us, but aren't you forgetting something? The fiend's whiny voices filled my head, temporarily breaking through the mind fog harmony it always created. What am I forgetting? A long, drawn-out huff of aggravation filled my mind. The void, you dimwit! You are a champion of the void! Use it! The void. Shadows. Shadows were everywhere, right there to be my eyes. Oh, I forgot about that. No shit, Sherlock. Sarcasm masked the pang of neglect. They felt neglected because I shunned them and all the void magic I held at my fingertips. Of all the things they could be feeling, that was the last thing I expected. Now is not the time for that sappy empathy crap, champion. Just conjure the void. I would have to think on all of this later, but for now I did as they told me. I reached for the cool touch of the fiend's power and cautiously embraced it. The deep thrum of the void tinkled across my skin, delighted to help me in my quest. Can we do a sort of map thing like we did last time? I closed my eyes, and once again that utterly odd feeling of floating high into the air surprised me. But I placed my trust in the shadows and allowed them to whisk my conscience away from my body for a bit. We flew through the shadows, not in the air but on the ground. There were no shadows in the sky. Soon the map they showed me before appeared in my mind's eye, the overview of the nearby town. It was so odd. It seemed like it was a sky's angle on the town, but I could now feel the shadows on the ground mapping it out from a confusing plethora of views on the ground level. So weird. I waited until the moving shadow map solidified before me and stayed still. Okay, so I have a map now. It was quite odd to lift my right hand and see a shadow version of it in front of the shadow map. Yes, we get it. It's weird now. Now hurry up, or did you forget there is a cost associated with all of this? Right? Sorry. Despite their remarks, it was still odd and amusing to see a disembodied hand making nearly translucent symbols in the air. It seemed the void couldn't discern a weaver's language very easily, but that was alright. I could feel them in the air in front of my body. So weird. The hand disappeared. When my real hand fell into my lap, the first spell woven. A glowing trail of the dark strands decorated the map, this time much more detailed than the generic trails had been before, and this time it showed more people. It showed the people. Slightly bigger, pulsing groups of strands signified a person, at least 60 of them, with only 3 outside of the town, off in the shadows on the edges. One of them was Garrett, I knew, and someone else was Timothy Higgins. Okay, What about the source? My hand wove for a moment, and both the trail and void complied with my command. The strands circled a spot on the map, and the shadows showed me the ground view as best they could in the real world. 5 square miles is the best we can do, champion, for we are not weavers. I looked around as best as I could. A rough street missing chunks of asphalt and many potholes covered in the black tar. A few houses falling apart, all looked uninhabited. One lone flat ball in a ditch and a rusted tire ring. Nature had aggressively reclaimed the area. I couldn't see any house like what Garrett had described, but 5 miles was too much for me to view now. It was at least a good start to look into further later. My mind's eye slightly spinning from the spell's toll, I focused back on the map. With the strands back to tracking the people carrying other strands, I thought about what else I needed to figure out. Perhaps how the dark coexists in the infected? Oh, right. How might I do that? You are the weaver. You tell us. I didn't bother to respond, already weaving something else into the map. Can you show me this person? The shadows stirred, murmuring appreciatively at my polite tone. Everything faded away in front of me for a moment. Then I saw someone's feet. It seemed I was peering from a shadow underneath a clothing rack. I stared at a pair of very nice, open-toed black heels with shiny red nail polish. What am I supposed to do with feet? Can't you tune in on her shadow? No. They sounded frustrated. The dark. We cannot get closer. Just weave something. Weave something? Like what? I can't just weave a spell to look into someone's body. That isn't how it works. Still, maybe this would work. I inspected her feet closely, and at first I couldn't see any symbols, until they slowly showed themselves. They seemed shy. Maybe that was because of the dark's effect? Still, the longer I waited, the more that appeared, and only then was I able to see just how much the dark had infected the person's natural strands. It was like a sticky spider web, slinging to everything it touched, yet that was all it did. Just slinging or sticking? The woman was in near perfect health, and the dark strands weren't sapping at her strength or anything, they were just there. So what's the point of these strands? Do they pick and choose who they kill? I thought about Kinley. Maybe she had a bad reaction. Or maybe all shifters in general. Has the dark infected shifters before? I aimed the question at Zol, who was still listening in. I felt her pause and think on it. No, I do not believe so. Mother Nature is a jealous one and never let her shifters and fae children get close. It was only ever the witches that dabbled with it mainly. Just witches? Surely not. What about demons? She sighed. No, they are something else entirely. Focus now, and I might share that story later. Right. Staring at the woman's feet walking away, I reviewed what I knew. Kinley was bit by one Timothy Higgins, an infected student. She died in her home, and no one knew. She mutilated herself and had lacerations to all her major internal organs by a foul magic, which, now that I think about it, was very reminiscent of the Void's shadows. Was this how the dark operated? Like the Void? I waited for some sort of confirmation from Zol, but Zol was content to ignore me. Fine. Either way, Kinley was the only victim confirmed dead. It seemed to be spread through saliva only. Perhaps blood as well. Garrett got bit, and he was having much of the same reaction as Kinley had, or so it appeared. So shifter magic fought against the dark, but in the end, the beast turned on the human counterpart. There were too few answers and too many questions. I wanted to know why, but I wasn't going to learn it today. So, knowing what I know, how do I cure this? Remove the dark without causing a reaction? Any attempts in the past led to a painful death, champion. It's just best to kill those infected quickly. It's a merciful death. I shook my head and went back to the shadow map, staring at all the moving dots. No, that's too many. I'll figure something out. I mean, humans get medicine, vaccines. Witches make poultices and brews. There has to be a way. Ah! Oh shit, I've been doing this for an hour. A thought occurred to me, and I felt the shadow's interest peak. What does the dark do after death? Does it enter another victim, or go back to wherever it came from? They bobbed and swirled around the map. Depends. It cannot enter the shifters so easily. Their natural defenses are too strong unless it is a direct attack. It would not go back to the pit. It is trying to escape that place. These strands... They trailed off, lost in thought. They must have gone back to that which evoked them, the caster. Dark has to be evoked. It doesn't just run free in a realm somewhere? The map disappeared, and for a minute, the void rejected my conscience entirely. The force of returning to my still body sending me tumbling backwards. Fellows, what the heck? Groaning with effort, I somehow got upright. My cast-covered arm hurt from getting banged up on the fall. What did you do that for? I demanded when I saw the void's magic shift in the bobbing shadows. I received no answer, but a dark portal instead. Come, they beckoned. Come to the void. Let us show you. They were actually giving me a choice this time. I hated the void, and avoided it whenever possible, but if this meant the answers I saw it... I sighed and walked into the dark portal. What I found on the other side was not like any part of the void I had seen before. I stared down an impossibly large hole, cracking gray stone with glowing purple cracks held under my feet, then just disappeared a mere 4 feet from the edge. It was cold here, and there was nothing else around. I didn't even hear any of the monsters in the gloom, but that didn't mean I was alone. A force was in that hole. I wanted to say being, but it didn't have a body. No. It was just a sentient entity. The dark. This was the dark. It felt every bit like the strands I had been puzzling over. This was the pit. It was contained by the void, and it was very angry, constantly seething and plotting to find a way out. I swallowed and slowly backed away from the edge. Cautiously, I felt around the void, trying to see just how far down the hole went, but I soon realized it was endless. Somehow the void held this impossibly large entity in this pit, like a container. Yes, exactly that. Zol said right behind me. I jumped, nearly toppling over the edge and into the darkness. If Zol hadn't grabbed onto the waistband of my jeans, I would have gone over. Careful, the edge is a bit wishy-washy. The dark eats it away, and the void repairs it just as fast. It's a constant, never-ending battle. Still holding my waistband, she walked us a good 20 feet back. This should be a safe enough distance. Despite my rapid heartbeat and quivering limbs from my brush with death, I could tell Zol was not her usual self here. She was somber and moody. Grimacing, she stared at the pit. Do not dawdle here, Valerie. White teeth flashed in the gloom as she gritted hers and met my gaze. This is not a good place. To answer your questions, yes, the void holds it back. When the light still fought with us, the light would clash against the dark and the void would capture it. I suppose you could say the void is either the perfect vessel or perfect container for the dark. The light could never sustain the dark. They eat away at each other. I soaked all this in, finally getting myself together. So how could a witch evoke this essence if it eats away at the light? Her answer was grim. They do not understand the force they are messing with. They might think they have figured out a way to master the dark, but in reality, the dark slowly eats away at their light until they are little more than a crazed puppet for it. That was a terrifying thought. So the master turns into the slave. A short nod confirmed my comment, and a cold hand of chilly fear clenched my heart. Yes, which is why it is imperative you find this caster, kill them, and take the dark from their corpse. As a champion of the void, you are able to hold it within yourself for a good amount of time and bring it to me. As I stared into her eyes, the blue irises turned completely black. When you do this, whoever has been infected will die, because the strain of the dark seems to need a host. And it's all connected to the caster. She scowled at the pit. It's evolving. Nerves fluttered in my stomach as it clenched tightly. So, unless I find a way to counteract the dark infection when I killed the caster, the source of this magic, they will die because the dark will be ripped from them? It's all connected? She nodded. I felt what little I had in my stomach starting to come up. Cut the head off the snake and the body dies. In this case, the victims. And no one has ever found a way for the victims to survive? Surely someone had before. Not a one, she sighed, put her arm around my shivering shoulders, and led me back to a waiting portal that popped in behind us. But, if anyone can figure it out, it'll be a weaver. See you soon, either way. I returned to the earth realm, cold and visibly shaking. Alex was there, hissing and stalking around the rocks when I appeared out of thin air, at least to her senses. Where the hell have you been? You promised you wouldn't go anywhere. She had to set down a dark glass bottle so she wouldn't break it in her anger, her skin taking on a scaly appearance as she clenched her fists. My eyes struggled to adjust to the overhead sunshine. I'm sorry. My voice was but a whisper. It couldn't be helped. I was only gone for a few minutes. I struggled to push past the fear clenching my body in its terrible grip. That pit filled with that terrible essence. How was I supposed to counteract something of that sheer magnitude? Couldn't be. Sure. The cobra's eyes fought against the human ones, and it wasn't until she closed her eyes, took several deep breaths, and counted to 5 that she looked normal once more. Right. Okay. Blowing out a breath, she gestured at the food bag. At least you ate, so that's something. She picked up the bottle she had just set down, now holding it out to me. Here, drink this. I slowly took it, feeling the effects of all of my weaving taking its toll. Despite the sun warming my back, I was still freezing from my encounter in the void. Was this what the infected felt? Tangled with the dark like they were? What is it? I couldn't see anything clearly through the dark glass, not even when I held it up in the sun. She shrugged. Medicine from the doctor for your injuries? It's supposed to take the edge off of the pain, like a numbing feeling. She went back to going through the bags of supplies, muttering too low for me to hear. It won't take it away? That would be nice right about now. No, but it'll subdue it. Like, it'll surround your receptors or something, then block the pain from entering. Think of a closed fist and all that pain, which is where the numbing effect comes in. I'm not 100% sure. I sucked at biology. Like a closed fist. Medicine. That was it. That's it. That's it. I could barely breathe, the idea overtaking every sense I had. What's what? Alex, you are a genius. Let's go. We gotta go. I rushed over and grabbed a random bag, ignoring the gushing nosebleed the sudden movement had triggered. Go where? We're leaving? You figured it out? She grabbed a small pile of things with ease. What's your big idea? Let me think on it. I think it'll work, but we need to get back to Packlands. Alright. It took us longer than I would have liked to make it down the mountain path and back to the vehicle, but we were soon there. On the way down, I was concocting a plan of attack. I needed to make a brew, and for that I needed caster relics. As for where I'd get those... Hey, Fiends, what was that wolf alpha's name? The one who hates witches? David McCormick. He hates you as well. Thank you, and that's not important to me currently, or ever, really. I startled Cooper from a nap when I got into the vehicle. Hey, wake up. I need you to get David McCormick on the phone. Alex placed everything in the back, then got into the driver's seat, starting up the engine. She had made 3 trips up and down the mountain trail in the time it took me to make my way down once, gathering the supplies with ease. How do you know his name? Cooper groaned and whined at the same time Alex asked. Oh, by the mother, why do you want to talk to him? There was no love lost between those two, it seemed. He hunts casters, and I need caster relics for a brew. I know he keeps trophies. Please, Cooper. He glanced at Alex. Hey, Alex? She shook her head. I'm driving, Cooper. You call him. She expertly manned the vehicle with a smirk. Oh, come on. He might pick up the phone for you. Coyote whining was quite annoying, but he still called McCormick anyway. After a minute, he put the phone down. Nope, voicemail. I'll get Kieran instead. McCormick will answer for him at least. He'd better, Alex murmured. Cooper looked back at me, for the first time noticing blood on my face. Yikes! Where's the Kleenex? Hey, Alpha. I tried to reach McCormick and he wouldn't answer. Know where he is? Winters needs him. Yep, apparently he has some witch relics. He looked at me, hit a button on his phone screen, and handed me a box of tissues. What do you need? Kieran's voice came from the phone. One day I'll figure out how technology works. I need a cauldron, any grimoires you can find, herbs, utensils, runic stones. Oh, an enchanted flint and steel, focus, that's what you mortals call a crystal ball. My list kept going, but Kieran interrupted. I'll find McCormick and bring all that he's got. How long until you're back, Charlie? Cooper hit another button and put the phone back to his ear, facing forward once more. Considering it's Alex driving, probably 2 hours. She rolled her eyes. Right, I got it. See you soon. The phone slid into his pocket. He looked back at me. Alright, lay down, drink that medicine, plug your nose, and get some sleep. I don't have time to waste on sleep. I looked out the window at the blurred scenery. I did tend to my nose and considered taking the medicine, but what were the ingredients? I didn't like taking things I didn't know, even if the promise of numbing was alluring to my current pain. Both Cooper and Alex grumbled, hissing or growling. Look, Val, you can't do your brew here while we are driving, clearly. You haven't slept in a good day or so. Just take a nap until we get back. I looked at him dubiously. Do you promise to wake me up as soon as we get there? He did have a point, and with how the vehicle was rumbling, it might just rock me to sleep. He nodded, smiling kindly. I'll even wake you up nicely. No pranks. Alex coughed in surprise. Wow, are you being nice? What's this? He poked her in the ribs. For now. He glanced back at me. What do you say, Winters? Do we have a deal? You take a swig of that and get some sleep, and I'll wake you once we get back to the Pack Village? I sighed, blinking warily, and nodded. Deal. With that, I gulped down some of the nasty syrup that tastes horribly like some sort of fruit, and laid down. I was right. I felt like a babe, being rocked gently, and before I knew it, I was out like a light. I always forget how long that chapter is. Yeah. Okay, so that was all. And Alex and Cooper, because I always forget they're on the tail end of that. So the reason why I like that chapter is it is character development for Zol and Valerie's relationship. Hopefully you can kind of tell that annoying grating Zol loves to just poke and prod. But she came there for a reason, to kind of help, even though she's the reason Valerie's injured. She almost killed her 2 or 3 chapters ago, because Valerie disobeyed her. She fought her, she defied her, she wouldn't do what she was told, and that pisses Zol off very badly. The relationship between Valerie and Zol is one that is very complicated. It started out, really, it's an enemy to friendship, really. But it was very obnoxious, annoying, ended up turning non-consensual, actually. And because where Valerie was playing regular chess, there was Zol playing 4th dimensional chess against Valerie, and Valerie didn't even know it. So even though Valerie told her no, Zol figured out a way to get what she wanted anyway. And there was nothing anyone can do. It was really, no one knew what was going on. No one still knows what happened. It's a big secret that only really 3 people know, and 2 of them are, well, gods. So, yeah. Valerie just basically had to deal with it. And so she's trying to navigate this new world, these new circumstances that she did not sign up for. And Zol got her prize. And yet, Valerie is very different than previous champions she's had. Zol does not keep champions that often. There's one void deity who's kind of the leader, I suppose you could say, Barbos. He still has his original champion. He picked a Roman soldier who basically was a survivor on a battlefield. He picked him. And that was his very first champion. And it's still his only champion. And the Romans were a very, very long time ago. Zol, I think the running record of longest champion for her is 8 years. She is the champion. She has the second highest fatality rate with champions, because she just ends up killing them, or they end up not being able to deal with her, mentally breaking, or just breaking, or she just gets rid of them because they just don't work. She's not very good at treating them like actual people. She kind of forgets that they do have some needs. If they resist just quote unquote shutting off their humanity anyway. And she just kind of goes through them like shoes. And yet here is Valerie. Valerie is a novelty because she defies her. She has her own opinion. She speaks. And she's very observant. And she makes her opinions known. Despite the circumstances that led Valerie to being Zol's champion. And I love this chapter because it starts to show that element between Zol and Valerie here. There are things that are going to happen in book 2, and Valerie is going to have to make a choice, and it appears like she is defying Zol big time, like she's figured out a way out of this, and it's really going to hurt Zol, like hurt her feelings. But what Valerie is actually doing is helping Zol. And yet by pushing Zol away, she is helping Zol, which is a, misnomer, right? And Zol isn't going to see it. Zol's too close to the problem, you see. She's looking at it too closely. So when Valerie does this, it's really going to hurt, because it's in that moment that Zol realizes that she doesn't want to lose Valerie. She doesn't want Valerie to be like the other champions. She doesn't want Valerie to work like them, because despite everything, she likes Valerie the way she is, even though she says no, even though she doesn't always get what Zol wants, and Zol always gets what Zol wants. It's an evolution of Zol's character, but also in their relationship. And she's not going to realize that until Valerie is quote-unquote gone. And Zoe is really not sure what to think about that. And that's something that she's gonna have to piece together and figure out in, book 3, book 4, book 5, and this chapter right here is her really beginning to realize this change in herself. Zoe, that is. And that's one of the reasons I just really love this chapter, is because it starts to show that. It shows a different side of Zoe as well. Because Zoe masks a lot. She uses that whole annoying thing as a mask. Being annoying, poking, prodding, and everything else, she uses it as a mask. She uses it with the other deities. They have to meet up every now and then. It's a very annoying council meeting. And she loves to show up as a 5-year-old girl, little blonde girl with blue eyes and pigtails and like a little sailor outfit, with the 5-year-old annoying little voice and everything. And she just likes to be annoying. And there's 8 other deities, right? 8 other deities. Only 2 of them remember what Zoe's capable of. Only 2 of them are fully aware that that is a sham. All of the others are fooled because she has done this for so long. She seems so annoying. They forget what she's truly capable of, what her purpose is, and she uses that to her advantage, because not only is Zoe's job to make sure that there's a balance, that the humans aren't completely 100% killing each other, that the supernatural communities aren't killing the humans and vice versa, that, there's balance in all of these things. But she's also got to watch out for the dark, because the dark is constantly escaping that pit. And so that's also part of her job. And sometimes her having to watch all of that means she has to watch her fellow deities, make sure they're doing their part and their jobs, because it's all a balance. They all work together to keep the world running, and if it does not run, if the car breaks down, then that's a problem. And so by them forgetting what she's capable of, she's able to get away with things, and it's all a mask. That, and she loves to run away and hide from her feelings because she doesn't understand them. Do you see why I both love and hate Zoe? Anyway, I have rambled on far too long, but I have to say I had a lot of fun making this video. I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. I have not really shared this story that much with people. Not many people have read it, and of the few who have, I've gotten feedback from one person. So, yeah, it's a story that's near and dear to my heart. I adore the characters, I adore the world building, and even more world building that I'm working on, and everything else, and yeah, just I appreciate whoever gets to this point in the video, for letting me ramble for an hour and nearly a half. So, yeah. I'm gonna go get a snack and some coffee and probably stream with maybe some I thought of alcohol, then I thought of alcohol and coffee, and apparently my brain, my mouth, my whatever tried to combine alcohol and coffee into one word. I'm gonna go now. Let me know what you think. I don't know if you want me to go more in depth about this stuff, maybe even read this. Let me know. Yeah. Just, let me know, because I would be totally down for that. Hell, I'm probably going to reread it again, because, god damn it, I love these characters. Yeah. Alrighty. Love you guys. Thank you so much for providing me this safe place to ramble. Because we all know I love doing that. Yeah. Have a great week, guys. See you all next week. I think the plan is do some Brooks Legacy videos. Probably 3 of them. Maybe 4. I might do 4. Because I think I gotta do 2 posts per twin. And then we're at Eden's finals. So I might just try to squeeze them into 1 week. And then get to Eden's final. And maybe just keep going. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. July is just chaotic. My life's chaotic. Is it any wonder I'm just escaping into writing fantasy right now? Anyway, yeah, have a great week, guys. Chin up. We got this. I don't believe I have it, but I think y'all got it. So, yeah. Bye!